Hi, I'm Mike Johns for Durkee Hoops. In this video, I'll provide you with some useful information on using the Durkee Easy Frames for multi-needle machines. Easy Frames have been designed to work with a wide variety of multi-needle embroidery machines from different manufacturing companies. Each manufacturing company will determine what the maximum size embroidery field is for each machine that they make. This information is available in your user's manual, and I highly encourage you to be familiar with what the maximum sewing field is for the machine that you own. Durkee frames will not change the maximum sewing field that your machine will be able to achieve. In this video, I'm going to be using the Baby Lock Valiant. Now, the Valiant has a maximum sewing field of 7 7/8 inch from front to back, which is also referred to as the y-axis, and 14 inches from left to right, which is also referred to as the x-axis. Let's take a look at one of the standard hoops that comes with the Baby Lock Valiant, the 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 inch hoop, which is also commonly referred to as the 8x8 hoop. On the y-axis, we have approximately 8.5 inches from top to bottom in the opening in the hoop. On the x-axis, that actual is going to be closer to 9 inches from left to right. This difference is to accommodate for the embroidery foot itself. In general, we like to leave approximately 1/2 inch on each of the 4 sides to accommodate the hoop, the embroidery foot, so that it does not hit the hoop. We will do the same thing on the Durkee Easy Frame. As you can see on our 8x8 Durkee Easy Frame for multi-needles, the opening of the embroidery frame itself is actually approximately 9 inches on the y-axis, and again approximately 9 inches on the x-axis. So 9 inches from top to bottom and 9 inches from left to right. Again, remembering that on my particular machine, the Baby Lock Valiant, the maximum sewing field on the y-axis is 7 7/8 inch. Because of that, I already know that I cannot take full advantage of the opening inside of my 8x8 Easy Frame. Let's actually take this hoop, add some stabilizer, and stitch out the largest square that we can stitch without the machine telling us that we have to go to a larger size hoop. In this image, you can see that I've loaded the 7 7/8 inch by 7 7/8 inch hoop that came with my embroidery machine onto the embroidery unit. I'm using a ruler here to show you that the distance from the embroidery carriage to the top center opening of our embroidery hoop is approximately 2 inches in length. If we look at this same image using the Easy Frames, you can see that it's actually a greater distance from the embroidery carriage to the opening at the top center of our Easy Frame. It's approximately 2.5 inches. This 1/2 inch difference will also play into the maximum available sewing field that we can get out of our Easy Frames. Let's go ahead and load up a simple square stitch out onto the factory hoop so that we can see exactly how large of a design we can stitch using the hoop that came with our machine, and then we'll do the same thing with our Easy Frames. So here's our stitch out. As you can see, we have approximately 7 7/8 inches on both the y-axis, or from top to bottom, and the x-axis from left to right. As you can see, there's also room between the stitch out and the inside edge of the hoop. This again was to accommodate for the embroidery foot so that the embroidery foot does not come in contact with our hoop. Now, let's do the same experiment using our Durkee Easy Frames of the same size. Here you can see a side view of my embroidery machine with the Easy Frame 8x8 hoop attached. I've got the camera set up on this angle so that we can show exactly what it would look like if we used our trace feature with the embroidery design that we just completed using the factory 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 inch hoop. I'm going to go ahead and begin the trace feature, and as we do, notice that if we watch the embroidery needle 1 embroidery foot, it would actually hit or strike the top part of our embroidery frame. This is specifically why we always say trace your designs before you begin stitching. Using the positioning capabilities of my machine, I'm going to relocate my number 1 needle so that it's floating directly above what the center of the bottom of that square is that we just stitched out on our factory hoop. You can see that it does not come all the way to the bottom of the stitching area in my easy frame. If I use my ruler, we can see that there's approximately a shortage of somewhere between 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. This is due to the stitching capabilities of the limitations in the stitching capabilities of my particular machine. Your machine may actually have less of a difference depending on what the maximum depth is for the sewing field of your machine. I'll have to adjust my embroidery design so that it does not extend past this area, and also so that it doesn't come up past approximately 1/2 inch from the top of my frame. Here's where it is. If we were to look on the original design, we would be striking our frame. So I'm going to have to shrink my square both at the top and the bottom to get it fully within the stitching field. So here you can see the maximum size stitch out that I was able to get using the Durkee Easy Frame size 8x8. The width is exactly the same as that I was able to achieve with the factory hoop. The height is a slight bit shorter than what I got with the factory hoop. On the factory hoop we got approximately 7 7/8 inch. On the Easy Frame we got closer to 7.5 inches. In this shot you can see that I've actually taken and peeled away the sticky back stabilizer that I used on the Easy Frame and adhered it to the back of the Trilon that I used in the factory hoop. I lined up the top and the sides, which you can see are all exactly the same, and the only difference that we have is here at the very bottom. The bottom line is the line that's stitched using the factory hoop, the 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 inch hoop. The inside line is the line that I was able to achieve using the 8x8 Durkee Easy Frame. The difference between the two is almost exactly 1/4 inch. In this sample I've used the 12 inch by 8 inch Durkee Easy Frame to show that I'm going to get the exact same maximum sewing field on the y-axis as I did using the 8x8 Easy Frame, which is approximately 7.5 inches. Again, this is the limitations of my machine, and yours may vary slightly depending on what the maximum stitch out field is for your particular make and model of multi-needle machines. Anytime that you choose to use an aftermarket embroidery hoop or frame, you should use the trace features built into your machine to make sure that the selected embroidery design fits within the stitch field of that hoop or frame. This will help to ensure that the embroidery foot will not come into contact with the edges of the embroidery hoop or frame that you've chosen to use, as this could cause significant damage to your machine. For more information on easy frames for multi-needle machines, as well as all other currently available products from Durkee Hoops, please visit our website at www.dehoops.com. Or you can always visit your local favorite embroidery supplier retailer. I hope you found these tips useful, and we look forward to seeing you next time.